What's up, YouTube? It's your boy, Best of None. Little stuffed up today. Gonna do a little bit of a different one. I'm gonna do a cube draft here, but I want to talk about how to draft cube specifically better. I want to do a broad how to draft better one eventually, but the cube's still up, and it is my favorite thing to do. So we'll probably get to that towards, I don't know, maybe a week or two into Bloomborough once the meta's kind of like felt out, because it's better to talk to it that way. But for cube specifically, I'm just gonna hop in the queue right now while we go forward. Apologies about my voice right now. I'm a little bit stuffed up. I think I've got a bit of a sinus infection, hence the little like nosy strap I've got going right now. But we're gonna get in here. We're gonna talk about how to cube more gooder, or at least give my take on it. Cube is like my favorite thing to do, and there are many different cubes, but I'm gonna keep it onto the arena cubes for today. So there are three different arena cubes. We're drafting just arena cube, not the chromatic cube and not the tinkerer's cube. So the general difference between the three is that this cube is pure good stuff. This is just like most of the most powerful cards on arena, that kind of stand alone powerfully. Doesn't mean you're not looking for synergies in this, but generally speaking, this is just like the best of the best things that we have to do on arena. So looking at this first pack, there's some really strong stuff. Generally speaking, much like normal drafting, you don't want to be super committal early on. And I'm usually looking for just like really strong individual pieces, and then specific to cube, fixing gets way better in cube. Since there are like no bad cards in a pack, fixing is really strong. This is something I picked up from watching Numot, the Nummy, a whole bunch. So in this pack, before time runs out, I'm looking at a Questing Beast is like a really strong card. I'm also looking at the Windswept Heath. But I also really like cheap cards that aren't super committal. Esper Sentinel is really good in basically any deck that can play white. And then Marionette Apprentice is a pretty good one too, but I'm not there yet. I'm gonna grab this Esper Sentinel over the Windswept Heath right here and just gotta start there. In this particular cube, the aggro decks are incredibly strong. So I don't mind slotting this into an aggro deck, but also like if I find myself in like Jeskai Control or like Azorius or something like that, I'm not mad at having an Esper Sentinel. You want stuff to do early on in basically every draft format these days. That was something I had to get used to when I got back into Magic. Since they stopped printing core sets, if you're not doing something on your first two turns, you're probably doing pretty poorly unless you like have a real good reason not to do anything on those turns. Looking at this pack right here, I'm kind of looking at Prismatic Vista. I'm looking at Wedding Announcement. Glorybringer is a really good aggro card. Bonnie Paul is a really good card too, but I kind of want to stick with the cheap things. And like Wedding Announcement is another really flexible one. I don't mind this if I'm in an aggro deck, and I also don't mind this if I'm in a control deck. Ossification is another option. Having removal to punch stuff through. Okay, so looking at this pack, I'm kind of seeing like two directions I can go. If I want to stay in kind of control-y places, I could go with Deluge, Metamorph, or one of the two like white removal spells. Or if I wanted to kind of like move into, I don't think Slick Shot Show Off is particularly good in like red white aggro decks. It's more of like a spell slingery kind of thing. You want this a lot more in like red black or preferably red blue. Big Klex is really fun in like a green white thing. I think what the take here though is Bone Crusher Giant, because it's still pretty flexible. Like I'm not mad at playing this card in my Jeskai deck, my Izzet deck. But I'm also not mad at playing it in my Boros aggro deck. So I'm gonna grab that Bone Crusher. Pick four. So pick four is where I start to kind of like look for signs. And there's some interesting options here. So there's There's Lutri, which is basically a free include in any deck that can cast it. But there's also Den of the Bugbear, which is pretty. This is going to be leaning us like towards aggro. There's also control-y stuff. I'm seeing that nobody's quite in the lands deck just yet. Primeval Titan is really good with like Field of the Dead or like any of those big sort of like landfall type decks. Restoration of Iganjo pushes us more towards control. I think I'm gonna take this Den of the Bugbear here, and my reasoning being that like if I can get into the aggro decks, I'm gonna love having this card. And yeah, I'm starting to see that it looks like aggro might actually be open in the pod. Aggro is usually pretty open in Arena Cube the first week, and then depending on how strong it is, it's not open later, and it's incredibly strong this time around. Other things that I might be looking at here, if I was in the Spellslingery deck, this Saiba Siphoner is like a really, really strong card. But looking at game plan here, it's kind of in between Devastator and Usher of the Fallen, and I don't want to give people to the left of me an idea that the aggro deck is like wide open, and Usher is like a really good indicator that it could be. I'd rather, if there's an aggro player to my left, they be taking like that Rada or something like that. Here's where I got to make some choices, because like I don't love Ranger of Eos. I guess right now it does have 2 targets that it can hit. So this does draw cards, but like a 4 mana 3/2 in an aggro deck doesn't feel good. There's a tap land, which isn't great in an aggro deck, but it is a tap land that like has like a pseudo mentor kind of ability. It puts +1/+1 counters on creatures when it attacks, and it gets does this thing get first strike? No, it's just a 2/2 Ox. I'm gonna take it. It fixes everything that we're doing here. Now we got tough choices. So Stoneforge, I want the other piece before I have Stoneforge in my deck. I don't want to take this like without an equipment. There's really only 2 pieces of equipment I want in this kind of deck. It's either Embercleave or it's the Maul of the Skyclaves. Sacred Foundry would be phenomenal, but Inti is a really, really strong aggro card, and so far we're like mostly creatures. The other option is Lightning Strike too, which I don't hate in red-white aggro. There's a couple of different aggro decks in this. There's like Rakdos, there's Izzet, there's Boros, and then there's just like mono white and mono red. Okay, Junland, Sapphire Collector. Not really what I'm looking for. For this deck, I think our options are Krenko and Rip Apart. Rip Apart can help get problematic things out of the way, and then Krenko just kind of like is a snowbally creature. It's really good with like Inti and the Bivouac that can pump it before it even starts doing its thing. And we're looking like a creature-based aggro deck. Making the extra tokens is like really nice with like Wedding Announcement too. Cool. Now we're back to our opening pack, and there wasn't a lot of aggro stuff in here anyways. We kind of took the most aggressive card out of it in the Esper Sentinel. I could either speculate on Mardu, which when I'm being aggro, I don't really want to do that. I'm going to take the Marionette Apprentice just 'cause on the off chance I run into somebody in my pod. I don't want to see that card. I'll take a Prismatic Vista. Yeah, there's fetch land for a basic. It fixes. It does the thing. I'm going to take here, Touch the Spirit Realm over March. I'm not sure if I'm going to play it, but the Flicker ability is nice. I'll take this Haunted Ridge. Mikaeus came back. We could end up playing this Mikaeus, but we'll see. I haven't been super impressed with Mikaeus. I think it's better in like white-green than red-white. And once we get this last pack, I'll get back onto my rant about how to cube better. So, card quality is incredibly high in cubes. People, for the most part, some people like to make cubes that are intentionally bad for fun and hanging out with friends. But as far as like what's going on Arena with the cubes, it's like mostly strong cards. Tinkerer's cube is like more dependent on synergies than the rest. Okay, our options here are really, really limited. Dragon Master Outcast, despite being a 1-mana 1/1, is really not an aggro card. You need 6 or more lands, which like we're probably not trying to play the 17 lands in this deck. We can take Ellie off the table. Smuggler's Copter is actually probably the vibe here. Smuggler's Copter is in this deck effectively like a 3/3 flyer when we want it to be. We could also take Mishra's Bauble. I don't mind that in an aggro deck. It kind of replaces a land, in my opinion. But we'll take this Smuggler's Copter and keep going. Okay. This is sort of... There's two options here. It's Bankbuster and Play with Fire, and I'd much rather have the proactive card that can go face. Since we're in red-white aggro, we like any sort of like direct damage to face spell we can do. We're not the kind of deck that wants Thalia. We already have two non-creature spells. Three non-creature spells with Touch the Spirit Realm, so Play with Fire's pretty good for us. We'd also happily take like Lightning Bolt or like this Royal Eruption doesn't seem too bad. Although, Captain Eberhardt, you should always consider the arena-specific cards because they're usually pretty strong. You know, Forsaken Crossroads is a favorite of mine in more ambitious mana decks. Resto Angels, okay. It does a flicker. We don't really have anything to flicker right here. I think I'm going to take this Captain Eberhardt here. Just a 1/2 double strike that occasionally cheapens the already cheap cards in our deck. Oh, baby. So this pack is loaded with good stuff for us. We're a little light on removal, so I'm considering this Fateful Absence. Fateful Absence is shockingly good in the aggro decks because it does two things. It like gets something out of the way, or sometimes removes a problematic planeswalker, but it also kind of like ties up a little bit of their mana for a turn if they want to like sacrifice the clue they get. It's kind of like a sneaky second thing. Savine's Reclamation is great in our deck specifically because our deck is all cheap stuff, but this Jewel Mine Overseer gives like inevitability and gives you kind of card advantage. And card advantage is really hard to find in these decks. Okay, well this is like an obvious choice. You don't pass on Fury. Fury is it's I don't know, it's a busted elemental. There's a reason they banned this in a lot of formats. Other good options here, I'd love a Get Lost. Honestly, I'd be happy if Get Lost or Elspeth came back. But I don't think I say no to a Fury. Okay, now we have some tougher choices. So Sundown Pass is not like the perfect land for us. But there's also Archangel Avacyn and Professional Facebreaker. We are getting a little clogged on 3-drops, but Facebreaker's got some evasion on it. Glider's okay. Maybe I just want this Sundown Pass. I don't want to put a ton of 5-drops in my aggro deck. I'm going to take the Facebreaker. I'm not sure if Touch the Spirit Realm's going to make it in. Ooh, baby. So Pillar of Flame is more direct damage to face, but there's also Prairie Survivalist. And this card's been really, really good to me. It just like comes in and pumps something on your board and something in your hand, and we are heavy in the creatures. So I'm going to take that. Also, flying is good evasion. And along that, our two kind of options here are like Magda and Dust Animus. I'm going to take the Dust Animus because a 2-mana 2/3 flyer is just like way above rate to start. I'm almost never plotting this thing, but it helps us punch through really, really well. Okay, we're back to that first pack that we opened, and the Bauble's really the only thing we could take. Chandra's like in our colors, but we're not like a big red deck. And Bauble does give us like a little bit of information. Okay, there's nothing really here for us. I think if we were to take any of these, it would be probably the Homicide Investigator. I don't think we're playing anything there. Oh, cool. And our like aggro cards came back. So there's like Lauren, which is good at blowing up like problematic artifacts. I prefer this in mono white or green white than to red white. You know what? That one's really good, actually. All right, Savine's Reclamation came back. We're still probably not playing it. We're so stacked on cards right here. Get that farmland in. Sundown Pass came back. That's a phenomenal sign for us. Okay, we got some options here. I like equipment with our flyers. We have like 2 flyers, so having equipment's good. Intrepid Adversary is really good too, though, because it kind of pumps your whole team. Looking at our sideboard, I can see that less red comes around than white. Like we have playable white cards in our sideboard, but like all of our red is making it in. which makes me think that the Intrepid Adversary is more likely to come back around than the Rabbit Battery, so I'm going to take the Rabbit Battery. We also want, like, more 1-mana spells in this deck. I'd love, like, a Lightning Bolt or something like that. What's our non-creature spells? 5? Okay. Reason I'm looking at that is Dragon's Rage Channeler is an option here. But we don't have a ton of non-creature spells, so it's not going to get triggered a ton. There's Elite Spellbinder, Invasion of Gobakon, Skyclave Apparition, and Bomat Courier. And I think I'm going to go with the Courier, just to kind of get our 1-drops off the ground. Okay, this is actually a really, really tough choice. So there's Luminarch Aspirant, and there's Ocelot Pride. Ocelot Pride's the best 1-drop in the cube. You can fight me on this. But this thing is pretty messed up. They kind of have to answer it immediately. Luminarch Aspirant, though, is also incredibly good. It just, like, continuously buffs your creatures. I'm going to take the Pride, and I'm going to pray that this Aspirant comes back. Probably won't, though. If anybody's in, like, green-white, that thing is gone. Maul of the Skyclaves is really, really good. There's also Stoke the Flames for us, some more like direct damage to face to punch through at the end. I'm going to take Maldo. Giving a creature +2/+2 first strike and flying is pretty good. All right, here's another kind of tough choice here. There's another really good 1-mana creature, and then there's also like some of the only card draw available for us. This is actually pretty tough. Wojak Investigator's like not bad either too. Like Evasion's really good in aggro decks to help you punch through in the end. I think I'm going to take the Night Counselor just because of how individually strong it is, and then hope for one of those to come back. How's our removal looking? We got a Play with Fire, we got a Touch the Spirit Realm, and that's about it. So as much as I'd like this Sanguine Evangelist, I think I'm going to take the Molten Impact just to be able to push stuff out of the way. We're pretty clearly trying to hit you with creature. That's like our whole plan. Selfless Savior is really the only choice here. I don't think I'm going to actually play it. I don't love this card. Sacrificing a 1-drop to protect a 1-drop is like not that awesome. Here I really like Kellen. Fills out like our 2-mana slot pretty nicely. And since our Outside of Fury, our whole deck is more or less like findable on this. Looking at the top card of our library, it's pretty likely to be a 3-mana or less creature spell. I'm not really worried about Journey On. I'm not going to make any map tokens with this. That's okay. All right, so from our first pack, Abbott's like the only really playable thing in here, but I don't think that goes in our deck. We don't have enough like non-creature spells to really make the prowess work. Showdown can kind of help refill our hand. I like Showdown with this Jewel Mine Overseer. Gobakon is kind of tempting too, just getting stuff out of the opponent's hand. Actually, yeah. The backside of Gobakon I'll read to you when we do the construction. All right, nothing here is really for us. And I'll take a Shove Aside, because we do need more removal. Oh, baby. Let's go. I'm going to take the Vampire over the Wojak Investigator, just because we need some way to keep our hand kind of healthy, just in case we need to kind of grind or punch our way through another deck. Let's talk about the deck and think about the cube really quick. So this Arena Cube decks kind of manifest in like 3-ish archetypes. There's like rampy decks, green base, go usually multicolor, like 3+, go big. There's aggro decks that are generally in the Mardu shell. There's a little bit of like a Gruul aggro deck in this one, but and then there's control. There's not really combo decks per se in the cube. We don't have like a Storm archetype or anything like that. There is like a Spells Matter deck. You can get like a Gear Hulk and some big like instants and sorceries to do their instance to do like cool synergy stuff, but not really like a combo deck per se. And so thinking about that, we're trying to beat all of our matchups. I'd say our worst matchup is probably anything that's playing a board wipe. So that could either be control or that could be our Like ramp decks occasionally run the board wipes as well. They're trying to play like big singular creatures. They don't really care about having like an enormous board, or get something that's like really sticky to remove, like a worm coil engine out. With that kind of like in mind, usually the first thing I do is I separate all of my removal out. I'm like, what have I got for removal? Bone Crusher Giant. Yeah, that's it actually. We're really, really light on removal. I guess Invasion of Gobakon is kind of removal in a weird way. Oh yeah, we got the Molten Impact too. Okay, so that's not that bad. 6 might actually be more than we need. We might be able to cut one of these. We definitely won't cut Bone Crusher because it's like both the things that we need, but we could make a cut here. So after I've kind of like separated my removal into a pile, I'm thinking about like how many lands does this deck want? Like our average CMC is really, really low. It's like 2. So we don't need a ton of lands. That means we can cut probably 2 of them, go down to like 15. And so with that, we need to make like 2 cuts here. And I'm thinking back to my early picks. Like when I'm thinking about making the two cuts here, like what did I take that was like flexible but not like super aggro early on? And I'm thinking about like what I might not be able to house. I should also look at my color distribution. So we're like way more white than we are red. So if I had like say a double red 2 drop or something like that, I might be thinking about cutting that because I'm thinking I'm probably going to have more plains and mountains in my deck. I'm probably going to cut like 2 mountains from this. I guess Fury is removal too. So we have a ton of removal actually. How many creatures do we have? 18? Okay, that's totally acceptable. But probably like 1 more in my deck. So we're probably not gonna cut an overt creature. I might cut this Bomat Courier. I might cut Mishra's Bauble, actually. I'm thinking Mishra's Bauble and Invasion of Gobakon can kind of be like on the list of potential cuts. I'm also thinking Courier's probably actually pretty alright. I don't think anything in our 2 drops can go. Smuggler's Copter is like too good. Keeps our hand like full of spells and not lands. Considering we probably like want to get to 5 lands max just to cast Fury. We might not even want Fury. I don't think like evoking it's really an option. We could just cut Fury and Invasion of Gobakon. But a 3/3 double strike is so good. But it's also just like 5 mana. Yeah, it's the most expensive thing. Fury's going. That may seem really, really weird, but I don't have any like inherent Fury synergies. Like I'm lighter on red cards than I am on white, so the evoking is going to be like less of an option. And I don't have something like Fable of the Mirror Breaker to like copy it and get that trigger like a second time. I guess I have touched the Spirit Realm, so I could evoke it and then like flicker it with the channel ability, but then I like use 1 removal spell to keep like another one. And the way that Touch the Spirit Realm's flicker works, it doesn't come back till end of turn. So it's not like I get to like double up all my Fury triggers or anything like that immediately. I can't take out an 8 drop. And I'd rather use that mode to protect something of mine in case of like a board wipe or removal or something like that. Sometimes being able to leave 1 creature on the battlefield is enough to like put your opponent out in that situation, like up against one of those decks. Realm Warden, double white, which is our primary color, is also kind of hard to cast. And I like cutting a 3 mana spell over anything else, just to lower our curve even further. All right, that seems good to me. I'm going to cut 2 mountains. Because we got 9 to 14. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 red sources and 7, 8, 9, 10 white sources. That seems pretty good to me. That's my rant. Let's see how this oh, nope. Important. Thalia, it's kind of misrepresenting. So let's get in here. Let them know that we're on fire. Okay, let's see how this goes. So like the ways to get good at cube is to I guess generally you want to be first good at playing Magic, and you can get that through just playing Constructed, even playing Brawl and stuff like that. Just learning like when you want to cast what. Oh, this is nice. I'm going to keep this based on Night Courier into Rabbit Battery. That seems very, very good. And then I can make like a big welcoming vampire. Yeah, just getting better at drafting in general is like the next step after you've gotten good at playing Magic. And Magic is a very, very difficult game. It takes a while to get good at learning sequencing, most important. Um, ooh, okay. Gonna enlist the rabbit battery. So my next creature comes in with a +1/+1 counter on it. So once you're good at just drafting, I'm gonna do this first because I want both counters to come in on my Welcoming Vampire. And then getting good at limited is kind of about learning how to read signs and how to work with like commons and uncommons and kind of like know what the archetypes are for a specific like format. And then cube, you kind of take that and you turn what you learned from just drafting normal limited up to 11, since it's sort of like a no bad cards type thing. What you got, opponent? Opponent's doing big things. Since it's like a no bad cards kind of thing, in cube you're kind of looking for a plan. You definitely want like a game plan in any of the cubes. Aggro, pretty easy game plan, but even aggro can manifest in different ways. Like the more white based aggro decks kind of want you to... Okay, I don't think we can leave that thing alive. Emperor of Bones is like too scary. Let's get Calvin out, and that'll draw us a card off the Vampire. Nice. Like white-based aggro decks are super down to play cards like Thalia, whereas like in this Boros deck, since we do have spells that we're like down to cast, we don't really want that as much. Or maybe you'll end up in a Boros deck that just has like maybe like one piece of equipment or something, and you don't really mind like throwing a spell in there. And then you have to reconsider something like Thalia. There's intricacies of each, or maybe you're in Rakdos aggro, and Rakdos aggro can kind of act as like a spell slinger deck sometimes, where you've got things like Sedgemoor Witch to kind of go wide and get around your opponents that way. So I could play both these cards out, but what I'm kind of feeling is I'm going to play the Dust Animus on its own, draw my card, and then I'm going to attach Rabbit Battery to it. Nice. Got me an Ocelot Pride. Unless my opponent's got like a Gear Hulk or a board wipe next turn, I think I'm pretty good. I already drew my card off Vampire this turn. Do I really need to play this Ocelot Pride? Sure. Basically, even if they have a board wipe this turn, I have a Facebreaker that I'll put a Rabbit Battery in. Oh, good. Opponent's kind of got it already. So our plan with this deck, kind of going back to my discontiguous rant, is our plan with this deck is to hit them in the face with creatures, like pretty specifically. We have one direct damage to face spell, so our primary plan is hitting them in the face with creatures. So what I'm considering for like my mulligan is like, do I have bare minimum a strong 2-mana creature? Hopefully one of my 1-mana creatures. I want to curve out really quick, get my creatures down, do as much damage as possible, and then hope to close it out with some sort of evasive threat. Something with flying, or I can give something flying with like Maul of the Skyclaves. I can give things haste with that little Rabbit Battery. That's kind of why I picked it over something else when I made that decision, because primary plan for the deck is like hit in the face with creatures. And creatures plural. That part is kind of like important. This isn't looking to play what Sam Black describes as like a small game. I'm trying to flood the board with as many creatures as possible and swing them all every turn that makes sense. The big scary things for me are like creatures that are bigger than mine with lifelink, and that's why we have an amount of removal in the deck. Let's get into the next one and see how this one manifests. So drafting with a plan in mind is really strong in most cubes. Even in these kind of good stuff cubes, you can elevate your your deck's not going to have any bad cards in it, but you can definitely make your deck better by kind of thinking about what the game plan of your deck is. There's a lot of decks on the controlling side that really just want to kind of kill you with a singular creature, or like, you know, there's like 2 or 3 creatures in the deck that are kind of the closers, and the other creatures are there to kind of like keep you alive against aggro decks or like disrupt your opponents and stuff like that. That's not what this deck is trying to do. We're trying to go beep beep, go fast. Okay, taking a hand without red here because we only have 1 red card in our hand anyways, and it's a 3 mana spell, and we don't know if we're even going to make it to 3 mana. Part of me wants to Invasion of Gobakon right here, but I'm not able to flip it immediately. I think I'm kind of better off doing this Prairie Survivalist thing and like pumping Esper Sentinel and pumping this Captain Eberhardt. Is a pretty strong start. So it looks like we're up against Rakdos. Rakdos has like 2 ways that it kind of manifests in this cube. Let's do this first. Pump this. I'm gonna pump Kelly again. Okay. Okay, they don't have anything instant speed. I'm gonna take a look in their hand. This is just so I can kind of get an idea about what they have in hand, what could be potentially scary. Flames of the Firebrand's incredibly good against our deck, so we're going to get rid of that. We're going to make that cost more. They're not thought seizing us. Alright, right on time. Not really. Let's go another one there. And let's get Kellen a little bit larger. They're probably going to Carnosaur the Esper Sentinel, which is like reasonable. Puts me in a good space to play this Kellen though, because it's now much more difficult to remove. Hopefully this Kellen can start drawing us some cards. Opponent's really not firing off Inquisition, which is kind of weird to me, but I guess they were trying to hold up Carnosaur to keep me from flipping this Invasion of Gobakon. And this is a curious pick for them. They had almost enough mana to make us discard our whole hand. I guess they don't want us to have removal. Blood Tithe Harvester, that's cute. I'm gonna dump down the Overseer. Keep making that bigger. Let's keep making this bigger. I'm gonna keep trying to take this Gobakon. Hopefully they trade for the Blood Tithe Harvester. Yeah, I don't need that on top of my deck. Put that in there. So their only way to get rid of the Jewel Mine Overseer is with a 5 mana Flames of the Firebrand. I guess they could Blood Token away like the Inquisition, really. Gets rid of my Captain Eberhardt. Love this. Now that they don't have Flames of the Firebrand, this is very, very good. Let's put it on the Dwarf this time. They still have this Colligan's command, but they could have some turns ago used the Colligan's command to blow up the Esper Sentinel. Oh baby. Yeah, let's throw this down. They like have to blow this up. This is basically forcing their hand with the K command. There's probably an argument for playing this like 7 dwarves before I did this, but or just passing to combat. They let it happen. Wow. Okay. You and you. All right. kind of running them out of business. Yeah. Well, they brought their Carnosaur back. But what's that gonna do? You're just gonna die. I think they should have blown up my prairie survivalist there. Oh, they got a food token. That'll keep them alive for a while. Okay, I'm gonna start with the 7 dwarves. It gets a +1/+1 counter on it. My attacks on the ground are bad, so I'm gonna move to. I am gonna play out the Bomat Courier. I'm just not gonna swing with it just yet. I'm gonna make this bigger. And I'm gonna make this bigger. And now I get to flip this. And then I can sacrifice this to give all my creatures hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Which is basically our... We've kind of won the game now. We can swing completely freely. Really. That seems not good. Oh, they're digging for answers with Facebreaker. How does this work? We get a Crucius. I don't know, it seems kind of meh. I guess Crucius could help them, like, dig for something. Alright, well I think Inti is kind of good game, so... I'm gonna do this here, and I'm gonna make the Dust Animus bigger, just because it's evasive. And then I'm gonna swing with everything and discard Captain Eberhart to make this into a trampling nonsense, and then I don't think they can block enough damage. I think they're dead here. So, what can we learn from this? How can we be better drafters? Just, you know, draft aggro and win? No. The difference between our deck and our opponents, because our opponent's deck is all good cards. Look at this shit. Trumpeting Carnosaur, Professional Facebreaker, Crucius. This card's frickin' broken, right? But where they kind of lacked was removal, honestly. 2 removal spells. Yeah, they had some hand disruption, but Thoughtseize against an aggro deck is not a spell you really want to cast. It does 2 extra damage against you and stuff like that. Inquisition's pretty good against it. I guess you could consider Blood Tithe Harvester removal, but also like 3 mana removal, 3 mana sorcery speed removal. These aren't like good removal spells. It's like it's kind of like leftover removal spells. Kolaghan's Command is like so much better when you have like specific things that you want to do with it. I'd say it's the better of the 2. Flames of the Firebrand's good. I think it's better in like a mono red aggro deck where you might just want to put 3 damage straight to face to finish the job, or if you have some like spell slinger synergies going on. What you really want in red black is like lightning bolt. So you go to 9 and take 8. Alright, let's throw this Ocelot Pride out there, and then I think we're pretty good to go. They basically need... They can't even Toxic Deluge here. They need, like, a board wipe that's in colors they're not representing. I guess there's the potential for Burn Down the House. Burn Down the House would be, like, an absolute blowout right now, but I don't see it happening. Opponent's giving us the rope treatment. Yeah, there we go. There we go. So... when you're in the bigger decks, we weren't in one today. You can check out my last video for like a slower-ish deck. I've kind of got like a Dimir thing going on, and you'll see that early on in the draft, I just take really cheap removal, like 2 mana, 1 mana removal spells, and really cheap, efficient creatures that are good at blocking too. That's like the other really, really important part. That deck had like some really aggressive creatures in it. which don't really fit with that strategy. Carnosaur seemed to like be the strategy that they were going for, but then you had something like Robber of the Rich in there, which is like it's a pretty aggressive card. I'll keep it. Hashtag never punished. Ocelot Pride into Inti is pretty freaking sweet, I gotta say. This is looking spicy immediately. So Paleontologist is like a mana dork. So let's see if they got any like spicy 4-drops they're gonna throw out at us. Mindstone. They're ramping. Okay, because they're ramping, I kind of want to be as aggressive as possible. We are going to hit them for 6 next turn. I think I really want to play this Invasion of Gobakon this turn, though, because, like, how we lose from here is like a board wipe or a big life-linking creature. Might actually discard this thing. Yeah, let's get rid of Bonnie Paul. That's their, like, blocker. And then, do we go face here? I think, actually, I'm going to throw Inti at the invasion. I'm going to chuck the face breaker. This is more about getting the +1/+1 counter than it is about any sort of, like, other stuff. But the flipped Gobakon protects us from basically anything but Sunfall. I don't know if Farewell's in this cube. I haven't seen it yet. They're just huge ramp dot deck. Okay, let's get Survivalist. I think I'm just gonna chuck Bomat Courier too, and just keep the pain train kind of rolling. Let's make that bigger. Swing at everything. I am gonna chuck this Bomat Courier. I'm gonna put the +1/+1 counter here, so they can't trade with it. Oh, that's just beautiful. And then I'm gonna take the card that I got, push that out of the way, do like a ton of damage, and I think we're pretty much in the clear here. I think we're going to do enough damage that there's no coming back from this. They need exactly Sunfall next turn, and they can't cast Sunfall. Good game. Ocelot Pride into Inti is one of the grossest starts you can get in an aggro deck in this cube. It's fun. I like this. Yeah, so focusing down your archetype, just like what you're trying to do, is probably the strongest thing you can do with cube, followed up by having like pretty good fixing. Fixing is where I'd say this deck kind of lacks. You see we're missing a color in a lot of our opening turns, but we aren't missing white, which is what most of our cards are. Like 2/3 of our cards are white cards. That's a little funky, but you can make it work. Starting with Ocelot Pride feels pretty good most of the time. Card kind of wins games if it goes unanswered. And I'm going to follow it up with Esper Sentinel. Esper Sentinel should be able to draw us a card against the black deck. Black decks generally have, you know, removal. You've played against the black deck before. At this point, you wouldn't have come to this video somewhere else. Okay. So I think I'm going to play out Smuggler's Copter, mash out the Bronco, and then swing with my kitties. Could have gone for like Wedding Announcement there and swing with the kitties as well, but let's get the Wedding Announcement out. So they're trying to evolve the Sleeper on me. And I think I want the card more than the token, so I'm just gonna swing out. Like, if they want to evolve the sleeper on me and take out a cat, that's fine. Yeah, I'll take a little action here. I don't really need any more lands than I already have. It's kind of frustrating, but it's also kind of whatever. I think you want to take the welcoming vampire here. Yeah, they know what they're doing. I'm gonna swing before I do anything else. Take a little look-see. Let's get rid of this prismatic vista. And let's see what we get from this. So we won't get our welcoming vampire back. We'll get another. Ooh, not bad. Okay, in a rare turn of events, I'm going to plot this Dust Animus, and then I'm going to play the Captain Everheart. Because they know about this card already. Alright, so we got the City's Blessing. In the unfortunate event that we get... Oh, that's rough. I'm gonna play this out and save my Dust Anima for next turn. Shieldred. It's an annoying card. Alright. This thing has Menace, right? No? It's just a 3/2 goblin? And this makes 3 goblins? Can we just fall out? I think we need to just put the gas on. How do we lose this game? So we could make 3 goblins. We could make 4 goblins. One of them attacking? Yeah, let's do that. Heck it. We're gonna just swing. You take 8. Alright. Like, if they flip Shieldred, I have to sacrifice the Dust Animus, but then they're, like, out all their mana. Yeah, and they're facing down, like, 10 damage next turn. The discarding doesn't really do, like, jack to this deck. Like, all my goblins, enlist my soldier. That's a lot of damage there, big boy. Alright. And now opponent is, like, dead to Den of the Bugbear. Too many creatures to go. I'm really surprised to see Boros aggro open this late in the draft. It was really apparent, like, the first couple days that this was maybe the strongest deck in the format. Ocelot Pride is a messed up card. There's also, like, the new Ajani in this one. Big Ben with the cool avatar. Weird, we drew all of our red cards, but we also have all of our red lands, so it's not really a thing. No 2-drop kinda sucks, but Bomat turn 1 doesn't, so I'm gonna go with it. I can always shove aside on turn 2 if I attack Sundown Pass and pretend like I'm doing the right thing with my mana. Hopefully that wasn't a 2-drop. Okay. I'm gonna bounce my Bomat Courier. Or maybe they have, like, Consider or something like that. Or maybe subtlety. Let's go, opponent. Let's go, opponent. Opponent. Let's go, opponent. Why you hold control? Let's go, opponent. Let's go, opponent. Opponent. Let's go, opponent. Why you hold control? Exhilarating. Oh, really? Alright, let's try and throw the face breaker down. Kind of begs for a little bit of removal there, that face breaker. Otherwise, I end up getting, like, treasures and start pulling ahead. Huh. Brainstorm with no fetches. Seems suspicious. Well, there's a card that can't block a face breaker. We really don't need the extra mana in this deck either. It's kind of whatever. Ooh, baby. Let's go. Put a bivouac down. Should we make them chuck a couple cards? Yeah, let's do it. That classic red 1-mana discard too. Dang, they ditched Snapcaster Mage and now they can't snap Rainstorm? No blocks. They're just gonna let us hit them with all this? And they probably have like removal. Or like interaction. Let's get our card. Oh, we love that. Okay. I'm gonna play Captain Ebby. I smell board wipe. They're really digging for anything they can find. Oh, they missed a land drop. That's not good. Let's take a little look. Don't think I need that. I think I'm going to activate Bivouac next turn. I think we'll have a second there, just in case. Four, 5, 6, 7, 8, exactly. Let's go. The beginning of the next end step. Okay, uncounterable touch the spirit realm is pretty good. And then I can activate Bivouac and yeah, we got him. We got him. Psychic Frog was a little scary there. That card's kinda rough. Really hard to remove. I think they just made maybe some bad decisions in what they discarded to it. They may have just brainstorm locked themselves into like not being able to find what they needed. But you know, if you're in a Dirtle deck and you don't have cheap interaction, you're gonna have a really bad time in any cube. Your opponent's not gonna be playing bad cards, so you can't really kind of rest on your laurels. And you know, even if you're up against like another control deck, if they get down like some ramp pieces and you don't do anything, it's not good. You want cheap spells regardless of archetype. This is probably the worst hand we've seen so far. But against huge anime sword, okay. This might come back in the ass, but I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it just on the strength of Prairie Survivalist. I'm gonna hold full control and play this and then Dirtle for a second. and then pass the turn, so they think I have a white 1-drop. Got a bones! Oh, okay, I'm gonna Prairie Survivalist. We'll buff the Survivalist, and we're gonna buff the Rabbit Battery. Next turn, I'm hoping to Battery and Invasion of Gobakon. I'm probably going to Invasion of Gobakon first, and then play Battery afterwards. Okay, sick. Let's take a look and see what they have. Lightning Strike, don't particularly care about. Emperor of Bones is a little sketch. Let's make this captain bigger. And let's just keep swinging face. I suspect they're going to try to out aggro us. Because they're like representing 5 damage a turn, but they don't realize that next turn I'm representing like a lot more damage. Alright, we're definitely gonna... I think we're gonna stomp the Marionette Apprentice. We don't want them... Or are we? We can also play Captain Eberhardt and equip, but that's not very good. Let's actually Molten Impact that. And then when we stomp, we can kill the Blood Tide Harvester. Let's make Krenko bigger, because that makes Krenko a lot scarier. And then we get to flip Invasion, and then now we can make our creatures indestructible. And it'll pump the Prairie Survivalist. Yeah, let's go. Why would you chuck the land that has Cycling? I'm kind of hoping they play their Emperor of Bones now. Yeah, just make them do both. Nice. Okay, now we get to do the blowout. So stomp here. And then I'll put the Rabbit Battery on the Captain. Actually, no. Next turn we get to Krenko, put the battery on it. Krenko makes 3 goblins. Let's go. Oh, Krenko makes 4 goblins. That's pretty good. Yeah. Never punished. Are we done? No? Final boss? Let's go. Okay, I've gotten a little bit distracted from the topic of how to draft better, but how to draft cube more better, but you know, think about learn to play Magic good first. And you can do that in any constructed format. You can even do that in Commander. It helps if you have friends. Friends can really help this like process move a little bit smoother. Turn 2 Prairie Survivalist is always good. Yeah, we keep this. Just learning how to like evaluate opening hands. Is this what your deck's trying to do? Friends help. I lived with a friend of mine who taught me a lot about just being better at playing Magic. And it's definitely like carried through. Go to FNMs, and go to pre-releases, and then whoever's winning, just talk to them. Okay, I think Survivalist is the best immediate make my deck better. Let's make this Captain Eberhardt bigger. Mono Red can be kind of a tricky matchup for us. They have a lot of removal, but they'd also rather spend it elsewhere. Huh, decision fatigue. Okay. I'm gonna stomp the young Pyro. And they're gonna Searing Blood my thing. That's fair. Searing Blood's a really good card. No. I should have just tried to move to combat first. Magic is a hard game. Even if you're decent at it, it's difficult. I would describe myself as pretty decent at drafting. And then not as good at playing. I'm trying to actually work on the play side more. I've been thinking about playing Constructed again just to kind of like brush my chops off on the play side. But get good at playing. And then think about Limited. Some great resources are out there. If you want to watch some people who are good at it, Porto Falls, Newmont. Shit, Voxy's pretty good. There's a lot of resources out there you can find. If you're more into the VODs, Limited Level Ups is a great place to learn. And then Sam Black has a channel called Drafting Archetypes. Let's plot this. Let's toss the Smuggler's Copter down. We're in kind of a scary position against mono red. Although they haven't thrown down like a lot of creatures. Oh, they're not mono red. That explains a lot. Bitter Blossom I love to see, honestly. Okay, I don't have any. Oh yeah. I get to do all this stuff now. I'll go over the land. There we go. And then next turn I get the big Dust Animus. That sucks. Do we have a way? We have one way to remove an Inferno type. Okay, this first. I'm just a little short of doing that and this. Toss Bivouac, we don't want that. I'm hoping they try and trade for Captain Everheart, because then we can kill the Inferno Titan with the shove aside. And if we don't have to deal with Inferno Titan, we have a better shot at winning this game. Cool. Cool. And they're just slowly draining a turn. So Bitter Blossom is a card that I think is a bit of a skill check in specifically Arena Cube, because unless you have like a payoff for it, I don't think it's particularly good. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna fire up the dead and swing on him. We're gonna start gaining so much life. You really gonna take 7 right here? You take 8 right here, okay. Awkward choice. So now they're dead to the play with fire in our hand, and we just got a perfect draft. Yeah. Get good at Magic, get good at Limited, and then come to Cube and just crush. It's a blast. Pops up on Arena in some permutation every 2 months or so for a couple of weeks. Usually like before a new set. Like we got Bloomburrow coming in a couple of days at this point. Hopefully I get this edited and up on YouTube before it comes out. But yeah, Bitter Blossom, big skill check. Yeah. Sweet. Perfect victory. Oh man. Ocelot Pride's not okay. Well, thanks for joining me, YouTube. It's been a pleasure. If you want to catch me live on the Twitch, I'm up Wednesday. Sorry, not Wednesday. Tuesday afternoons is when I'm up. And I'll see you next. Peace.